It's not official yet, but by all indications, Robert Saleh is coming back to the 49ers. So, okay, great. What does he have to fix and how can he do it? Plus, we'll give you our best bets for the AFC and the NFC championship games, all coming up on the Gold Diggers podcast, brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. What is good, everybody? Welcome to the Gold Diggers podcast on the Gold Standard of the Fans First Sports Networks. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera. She's Michelle Majuk. Michelle, it is our 100th episode. How you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. And I want to cheers to you and cheers to our listeners. Cheers to everyone that's been listening to us during this time. Happy 100th episode.
Yes, it's time for some day drinking, and we are both doing it, and I have zero regrets about it whatsoever. You know what? We're in a celebratory mood. At least a lot of 49ers fans are in a celebratory mood because Robert Saleh looks like he is coming back home to the San Francisco 49ers. What a bizarre situation happening between the Jaguars, the Buccaneers, and the 49ers. Like, I did not think this was going to happen. The amount of circumstances that had to go the 49ers' way for this to happen is kind of crazy.
I wonder if the Commanders could have got Ben Johnson if they just moved on from Trent Baalke immediately. Because clearly that was what was keeping everyone away, right? Because Liam Cohen was like, no, I'll just go back to the Buccaneers. And then as soon as they fire him, he's like, okay, yeah, I'll come work for you.
I mean, the fact that Jacksonville didn't do it sooner just shows like how poorly run they are. That whole thing is ridiculous. But we got a little more detail from Matt Mayoko on his YouTube channel just about an hour ago. It sort of helps us understand things a little more, at least from the 49ers perspective. First of all, Mayoko said when the 49ers interviewed Robert Saleh, which I believe was January 9th, he told them at that time, if I'm a defensive coordinator, I will be the defensive coordinator here. If I don't get a head coaching job, I will be your defensive coordinator. So that does at least sort of help you understand why the 49ers did not go crazy interviewing a bunch of people. But, Michelle, Mayoko also said that there were some sweaty palms, some anxious moments in 49ers headquarters, some clenched butt cheeks. All right, to be fair, he didn't say the butt cheeks thing. I added that. But he said that there were some anxious moments and some sweaty palms because the 49ers saw their second, third, and fourth options for a defensive coordinator go off the board. So clearly they were scared that this Robert Saleh thing was not going to work out. So again, I still think they should have been interviewing more people.
They definitely should have been. I mean, that's on the 49ers for sure. Just having all their chips in one basket. I did not think Robert Saleh was going to get hired. And I think the only way he was going to, if the team got desperate because no one else would take it, like it looked like it was going for with the Jaguars there.
Right.
So they finally moved on from Trent Baalke. But it makes sense that he wasn't hired this round. You don't see head coaches get fired in a year and then get hired again as a head coach that very next year. It's very, very rare. So I was not expecting Saleh to get hired. But when looking back at the numbers for the 49ers while he was DC, I was shocked at how unspectacular they were, honestly.
Well, because I think that people forgot the whole picture with Robert Saleh. What they remember is the 2019 defense, which was awesome, which was very good, which got after the quarterback, which intercepted the football. Their pass defense was incredible. I think they actually held people. I could have this wrong, but I think they held opponents to fewer passing yards than the Legion of Boom ever held opponents to. I think. I could be wrong about that. I know it was very close. They were awesome that year. But in 2017 and 2018, before that, the first 2 years of the regime there, they were not very good. Now, the roster was not very good, but that is the truth. And then in 2020, they were so massively injured that they were, not one of the top defenses that year either. So when you're talking about Robert Saleh, you're really looking at 1 year in 2019.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at his Jets time, and they were amazing under him. But we'll talk about that in a second. When going back to the 49ers, even in the 2019 season, yeah, he was great in total yards and passing yards, and it was his one good year in sacks. It was still fifth in the NFL at 48 sacks. That's nothing like, oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Top
Six,
5 is good.
yeah. It's just not like, oh my, that's his best season, and 48 isn't like anything elite. Six in turnovers with 27. But I will say, like, the sack rate is very deceiving. They were uh below average in quarterback pressure rate that season. They were just super high in sack rate. That kind of means you just kind of got lucky with some sacks there. So I'm kind of willing to more look at the rest of his time there where the sacks weren't really there. He only had 115 sacks from 2018 to 2020. So almost half of those came in that 2019 season.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to go back to the Jets because this defense was amazing under him, right? So from 2022 until he was fired, in 2024, they ranked first in yards per play allowed, first in total yards per play, passing yards per game, first, sixth in points per game allowed. But really, a lot of that was just because his offense kept turning over the ball. Could have probably been first in that too. And then as soon as he was fired, the Jets allowed nearly 27 points per game from week 6 through 18 without Robert Saleh there, fifth most in the NFL. Like, they fell apart as soon as Saleh was gone.
Saleh, I think, especially when you give him great talent, and he had a lot of talented players with the Jets. Like, he knows how to maximize it. He knows how to get the most out of it. Now, he's going to inherit a team that only has 2 starters from the last time he was in San Francisco. Nick Bosa and Fred Warner are the only 2 guys that, were part of the Robert Saleh 49ers. I do think a couple of things. I want to get to this comment from Waltony 101 who says, what series of the revenge tour are we on now with Robert Saleh back? That is a fantastic question. I don't know. I feel like it's revenge tour 4, maybe. Who the hell knows? I can't even keep track at this point.
Revenge tour.
Yeah, this was the whole like revenge tour. After they lost in 2019, 2020 was supposed to be the revenge tour.
Gotcha,
and then everybody got hurt, so we put that on hold. So 2021 was supposed to be the revenge tour. And then they lost the NFC Championship game. So 2022 became the revenge tour. There's too many iterations of that. One thing I do think Saleh will help with is the communication issues. I don't think this defense is going to look nearly as freaking confused as they looked last year at times, over and over and over again. Anytime a team went to Tripp's bunch, the 49ers had no idea what to do. Saleh's going to get that stuff straightened out right quick and in a hurry. And that alone, I think, will be a big improvement.
I also think Saleh is a player's coach too, and that's really big for bringing in players in free agency, right? Like, that's just a thing. The Steelers somehow always get players wanting to play for Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin's a player's coach. We get some players just because of Mike Tomlin. And I think that will help this year in free agency, bringing in some defensive pieces, which you're going to have to do, because looking at their defensive roster right now, man, is it weak. And so many guys, unrestricted free agents, and very little. I mean, it's not an inspiring depth chart in the slightest. It's actually pretty scary.
They have work to do. Like, he has his
so
work
much work to do
in a significant way. I do want to know, and this comment from Alex kind of gets to it, which, by the way, nice avatar, Alex. The SF from the residency cap, that's very nice. Alex Bach, YouTube channel member, says, could the Cabo click have an impact on the possible Saleh signing? Without a shot at the Super Bowl, Trent could possibly retire. The Cabo click we know has influence with Kyle Shanahan. I do think that Kyle looks at the locker room and how the locker room will react to certain moves. Remember, there's that line from Deebo Samuel from one of the years of the Super Bowl that the Niners weren't in it, where he said, Kyle doesn't do anything without talking to us. So I do think that was a factor. Clearly, Saleh is somebody that Warner and Bosa know and respect and love. So, I don't think he's going to have any issues there. But I do wonder if he will have impact on who the Niners choose to re-sign in free agency. And maybe what players might be willing to re-sign with the 49ers in free agency. Like, maybe the Niners were thinking, you know what, Talanoa Hufanga, we don't really need you. Maybe Robert Saleh freaking loves Talanoa Hufanga. So, I don't know what that impact will be, or if it will even change anything, but it does have some effect, I would imagine.
Yeah, and Dre Greenlaw coming back,
Right.
that could have a big effect. He was a big part of his time with Saleh from 2018 to 2022. It was Greenlaw as the second highest tackler during that time under Saleh, behind Fred Warner. So that could be one that they need to bring back. And I mean, honestly, the linebackers out there in free agency are not great. So if they could get Greenlaw where they're not overpaying him, and I know we have the injury worries, but we're kind of really hoping they're able to bring him back. And if he liked playing underneath Saleh, then maybe he does take a little bit less money.
And can Saleh, yes, maybe Greenlaw, I think that would be a factor with Greenlaw, but also can Saleh help D Winters? Can he help improve D Winters? Because
If that's what we're going into this year, we're hoping D Winters is a thing, then we've already failed.
well, here's the thing. You can't add somebody everywhere, right? And so maybe middle linebacker is a spot where you're like, hey, you know what? We can't afford it. We just have to hope that we get internal improvement from the guy that we have.
But please give him competition. Like, you cannot go into this year without competition. I'm not saying you have to pay up for a really expensive free agent, but take one in the second or third round in the draft. Bring in some younger, cheaper middle linebackers that you can at least compete with him. So much of this year, this offseason, that worried us about these positions that were weak was that there was no competition, right? It was like these guys are pretty much going to be put into this role, and the competition is so mediocre that you just didn't feel good about the depth. You can't just go in being like D Winters. Hopefully, Saleh can get the most out of him. Like, he needs competition. If he wins out, cool, but it better not just be you're our starter.
I would like more competition everywhere, frankly, across the board. It never hurts you. That's the thing, like there's no downside to it.
Like,
Really.
bring in 10 undrafted rookie middle linebackers. Just bring in so many, the most you can, and maybe you'll find a diamond in the rough.
You're like, pick them up, whoever it is, just pick them up, bring them in.
I mean, I'm going off of what the Rams did a couple years ago, but that seemed to be such a great strategy, and they found so many guys late with all their draft picks and undrafted guys that it's like, the numbers volume really does seem to be the way to go for this competition when you're for your weaker positions.
Well, because frankly, like, don't overestimate your own ability to scout people. Assume you suck at it, so bring in the most people possible, and hopefully one out of those people will work out, and then you look like a genius. The other thing I think Saleh helps with, obviously, is the intensity. The article that came out in the San Francisco Standard the other day about the Niners are looking at Pete Carroll because he has energy. Well, clearly Robert Saleh has energy. There's 50,000 GIFs. You just type in Robert Saleh on X when you're looking for a GIF, and there's 50,000 clips of him just freaking out on the sideline, like rocking out. Does that help? Yes. It shouldn't be, well, if we don't have that guy, our defense doesn't play well, which is why I think it's a little overblown. But do I think it helps? Sure. And it's not the main reason you buy the car, right? It's like heated seats. I love heated seats. If I could have them, great. For some reason, when my butt is warm, the rest of me is warm. I can't explain it, but it works. If I could have that, great. But I'm not buying the car just because of that. I'm not hiring Robert Saleh just because he pumps people up on the sideline.
No, you're definitely not, but it's a part of it, and it's a part of why players love playing under him. But you still need good playmakers, and you still need a good scheme, right? It's just one tiny small part of it. And right now he doesn't have the playmakers, so they're going to have to do their work in free agency and in the draft and really go all in there. Like, I know offense is fun and all, and there's some pieces missing on the offensive line, but I do think this has to be a heavy draft for defense. And then, I mean, there are actually some good defensive pieces in free agency. One guy that Saleh might be able to bring over from the Jets is DJ Reed. He's a unrestricted free agent, a very good corner for the Jets. And that would be a great signing, right? Like, if you can't get back Travarius Ward because, some personal stuff there, I think DJ Reed would be an awesome signing to go with Lenore.
DJ Reed, originally drafted by
the 49ers.
In 2018, who was their defensive coordinator? That would be one Robert Saleh. So I do think, actually, I think it was Steph Sanchez. Let me see if I can find the tweet. Yes, here it is. She had the same thought as you did yesterday. It's like, all right, let's take a look at the New York Jets and see, because coaches do that all the time. They love to bring over, like, quote unquote, their people when they switch jobs. So she had the tweet yesterday of some of the Jets free agents. Let me see if I can pull it up. I don't know if you're going to be able to read it, but I hope so. Yeah, it's pretty good. Hassan Reddick, DJ Reed, Javon Kinlaw. No, thank you on Kinlaw, please. Let me just get it right out in front of that. Tyler Conklin, Tyron Smith, Morgan Moses, Solomon Thomas. No, thank you on Solomon Thomas either. We've been there and done that. DJ Reed would be fascinating. I would love it. The Niners definitely have a need at corner. There's no reason not to. I don't know what he would cost. I mean, I guess that's the only reason, but I think it's not like this is not a nice to have. The Niners have had trouble at slot corner forever, for years. I remember your best bets. Everybody the 49ers played, you were like, oh, take this guy because he's going to be in the slot and he's going to hit his over. And you hit it like every freaking week. So this is not a seat warmer thing. This is a gotta have. This is an airbag thing or a I don't know, whatever, 4-wheel drive, whatever other good feature you value in your automobile. But you need to improve slot corner. So I would love DJ Reed.
It's funny. The two guys I really want in free agency this offseason are DJs. So DJ Reed and then DJ Jones. I loved DJ Jones when he was with the 49ers last. I feel like he's a very underrated defensive tackle. The 49ers stunk at run defense this year. They need to fix their interior defensive line. And I think DJ Jones would be a great addition too. He played underneath Saleh as well. So DJ Jones, DJ Reed, bring them back. Let's go.
Who's going to be against that? Now, don't bring them back and expect them to play like they played when they were with the 49ers, though. That's the thing. Expect them to play like what they are now. You know,
DJ Reed has been better since.
Great.
He's better with the Jets.
Yeah. Right. Absolutely. Which is another reason to bring him in. But like, you're not getting a time machine, you know, even though you're bringing back some of these familiar faces, just understand what they are and what they're likely to be going forward. But I still like they would be improvements all around for the 49ers. Do you worry that it's too much of like, hey, we're going to bring back the 2019 team, you know, like, is it too much of that?
I don't think so. You're only, you're bringing back the good players. Like, it's not like you're trying to go all in back. You're not bringing back Richard Sherman, like you're not going that far back. I will say, like, Robert Saleh has his work cut out for him. When you look at the stats at the end of this year, I was actually shocked. You brought up like how little of sacks they had, 0 sacks in 3 of the last 4 games. And I think of 4 of the last 6, right?
Yep.
And then 0 turnovers in their last 4 games. And do you know they had 1 turnover from weeks 12 through 18? One.
And was that like the Caleb Williams? It was like sort of like a half pass fumble. It was weird. That's a killer. That is a killer
because you're playmakers.
You're asking your defense to make stops again and again and again to do right for so long, and it's so hard. Like, most good defenses are good because they generate a lot of turnovers. Yeah. You're not always going to be able to force the other team to punt, and it was maddening. It was such a snowball, a combination of things that combined to hurt the 49ers. They were bad in the red zone. They weren't generating turnovers, and they gave the ball away. It was all of that stuff working together that cost them so many wins last year. And so, yeah, you have to get more turnovers. You have to. But that they never got any pressure on the quarterback, Michelle. And when you don't get pressure on the quarterback, he's not going to make mistakes. You got to hope for like a tipped pass or somebody dropping a catchable ball. And that's not a really good formula for creating turnovers.
Yeah, it is interesting because Saleh's, Jets weren't great at getting pressure either. And they did not blitz a whole lot when he was with the 49ers. And like I said, even the year that they had 40 sacks, top 5 in the league, their quarterback pressure rate was below average in the NFL. So it's not something that Saleh has been particularly great at either. And we know it's Nick Bosa and no one else right now. So again, I don't know how much that will improve in sacks and pressure next year, but they do need to get more guys that can be a playmaker in terms of turnovers. Like, that's something they have to fix.
And they need to blitz more, Michelle, period. Like, they have to. They're not going to have the horses. And I know that's something that Robert Saleh doesn't do. And that was part of my concern about, do I really want Robert Saleh back here? Was I think that the defense needed to evolve, and he represented more of the past. Now, maybe he'll come here and he will blitz more. Maybe he'll do that. And I really hope that he does. But I also think that you have to expect people to be who they have been. Like don't expect people to come in and be radically different. Assume that they are going to be who they have always been, whether it's draft picks, coaches, whoever you bring in. And if that's the case, then he's not a guy that blitzes a lot. And if we've seen what happens when the 49ers just sit there with their 4 defensive linemen and try to get pressure on the quarterback and try to cover with 7. It doesn't work. They don't have the guys in coverage to make that work. And so that is my one worry with Robert Saleh.
And there are guys in free agency, but it also comes down to like, if we're gonna, bring in an interior defense lineman, if you're gonna try to go get DJ Reed, if you need, other secondary pieces, especially like safety, you need interior offense lineman. You're gonna pay Brock Purdy. You don't really have money to also bring in an edge rusher, which they do really need. So maybe they use their early draft pick on that. But Charles Omenihu is out there. He was good for the 49ers. He was solid. He was even better for the Chiefs. I know he had that injury. I don't know how much he's recovered from that, but like, he's an option. I don't think they'll be able to afford the Khalil Mack or Matthew Judon. Maybe Josh Sweat, Azeez Ojulari, but it's not like I don't really know where they go to fix their pass rush this offseason.
You're not signing an elite pass rusher because those guys don't ever hit free agency. You have to get.
And if they do, they're going to make $30 million a year. You can't afford that.
Yes. That's why the whole Diamador Lenore talking about Max Crosby thing, I was like, holy crap. Like, wait, what? Like, maybe that'll be a cool thing that could happen.
I mean, that would be insane.
I would love that.
But how do they afford that? Plus pay Brandon, plus pay Brock Purdy, plus pay Christian.
Well, he's going to want a new deal because he has no guaranteed money left in his deal. So, it could be one of those things where they try and stagger the cap hits out to where the first, 2-3 years, the cap hits aren't that much. Who knows? But I'm sure they'll look into it because to their credit, they always look into the crazy stuff.
I mean, if they could get Max Crosby, that'd be insane. But then that's also their first round pick. And it's like, can they ever just have an early pick?
Well, I would easily give up the 11th pick for Max Crosby. Would you not?
How old's Max?
I will check right now.
You know what Max is great at, which bothers you. No, what he's great at is getting quarterback pressures and not really sacks. He's had one big sack year. I've always
28 in August.
I've always said about Max, he gets to the quarterback and never sacks him. Like he's really, really good at that. Not never, obviously, he's one of the. But if you're annoyed by Nick Bosa not sacking enough, Max Crosby's even worse at that with so many quarterback pressures to sack rate. So if you want two guys that can be really good at getting to the quarterback and not bring them down, but both of them together would be awesome.
That's what I would love to see. Max Crosby has had 3 seasons of double-digit sacks. 10 sacks as a rookie, 12.5 in 2022, 14.5 in 2020.
Yeah, that was his one great year.
And then he had 7.5 last year in 12 games. He also has led the NFL in tackles for loss in 2 out of the last 3 years. I would love Max Crosby. He's a huge dude. I did not realize. So I interviewed him last year at the Super Bowl, and he was standing next to me, and he is massively tall. Like, I was not prepared for this giant of a man. 6'5", 255, and he looks every bit of it, let me tell you. I would love if they got him from the Raiders. Now, here's the thing. Is Pete Carroll going to want to lose Max Crosby? Because he's now the Raiders head coach, by the way. Congratulations. Pete Carroll, 73-year-old Pete Carroll, is the Raiders head coach. Millie Money says we were better off hiring Pete as the defensive coordinator. Too bad he's headed to the Raiders. I just want to say this. Raiders Chargers got a lot more interesting. Pete Carroll, Jim Harbaugh, what's your deal? Everybody remembers that from college when Carroll was at USC and Harbaugh was at Stanford. Obviously, they had a rivalry in San Francisco in the NFC West. Although, to be honest, Pete Carroll's Seahawks usually kick the hell out of Jim Harbaugh's 49ers. Now it's back in the AFC West.
I mean, yeah, that doesn't really make sense to trade away Max Crosby because you don't hire Pete Carroll to rebuild, which the Raiders should be rebuilding. It doesn't make any sense. They don't have any pieces. I don't know. But Pete Carroll is 73 years old. You're going to tell me you're asking him to rebuild? I don't get the hire at all. This is just silly. This is silliness. But yeah, at that same point, like, why would you trade away Max Crosby unless he asks for it and demands to get out?
Unless you're trying to get a quarterback, right? The Raiders need a quarterback desperately.
True.
I'm trying to see what is their pick in the first round. The Raiders have the 6th pick. Yeah, I doubt that they would need to get the 11th pick to move up. I'm pretty sure it's 6. They could probably move up on their own without it.
Also, this quarterback class is not fantastic.
Who's a free agent? What if Russ goes to the Raiders and we get a Russell Wilson, Pete Carroll reunion in the AFC West?
Please take him. Please. Get him out of Pittsburgh.
Monkey Boy 12th says Carroll going to keep Crosby knowing how big of a crush Harbaugh has on Herbert. He wants to terrorize his dream player. I mean, if I'm Pete Carroll, like, unless I get blown away, like, why would I ever do that? But hey, look into it, 49ers. I'm absolutely here for it. A couple other updates from Matt Mayoko. You should be very happy, Michelle. Number one, Nick Sorensen's not going to be back. He's not going to be the special teams coordinator. He is not going to be back. So that's good. And number two, Matt Mayoko said he does not expect your boy, Brandon Staley, to be back with the 49ers.
Oh, that makes me feel so much better. And now they have a chance to be a winning team because Brandon Staley was never going to be a part of a winning team. Let's cheers to that because I haven't seen you take a sip in a while.
I'm empty. What are you talking about?
Oh my gosh, you've been secretly drinking.
No, not secretly. Right on camera.
All right. Well,
I think
you need to call Erin down and tell her to refill it for you.
Erin is at work. She's not just sitting at home waiting to refill my drink.
I forgot not all of us have work from home jobs. I forgot she actually has a real job helping kids and not like us doing pointless jobs talking about football.
Very important jobs. Essential, clearly. Yeah, so Mayoko said Staley's going to be gone. He said, Saleh's going to be the head coach of the defense, essentially, which just goes to show, which proves that Brandon Staley was babysitting Nick Sorensen last year, which just goes to show they knew Sorensen wasn't ready. They knew it, and they did it anyway, Michelle.
Also, my favorite thing is that they try to act like, well, Brandon Staley took over play calls. Like, let's get these rumors around when they had like one good game. And then you look at the end of the season and it's 0 sacks, 1 turnover over the last 8 or 7 games or something like that. It's like, well, if Brandon Staley was calling plays, then oh my goodness. And poor Nick Sorensen was getting thrown in the bus obviously Staley was coaching terribly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. Like, you can't be like, oh, Brandon Staley was calling plays when they looked really good against the Rams when Dre Greenlaw was back, and then completely throw out the games after that when they sucked again.
Yeah.
So that was the latest update from Mayoko. He said that they expect to announce the special teams coordinator early next week.
So that means they know who it is, right?
I would think so. I think that they want to announce everything together. They want to announce defensive coordinator, and they want to announce special teams coordinator. One shot. Maybe
it should be officially official though with Saleh because all of the jobs, the jobs that he was interviewing for, Raiders and
Cowboys is the last one.
Yeah. So they've all been filled.
Well, the Cowboys not officially, but I mean, unbelievably, they want to hire Brian Schottenheimer. Like,
this is such a bad hire. It's hilarious.
I'm sorry. Robert Saleh is a better candidate for a head coach than Brian. What the hell has Brian Schottenheimer ever done to deserve a head coaching job?
He's 52 years old, been an OC forever, and no one's been interested in him. But the Cowboys are like, yeah, let's do this.
And he's never been a good offensive coordinator, really.
No.
So, yeah, that was crazy. There was another special teams interview, according to Matt Mayoko. Brant Boyer, who was the Jets special teams coordinator since 2016, also interviewed for the job. Again, Mayoko said next week they expect to have the position filled. So it's Brant Boyer. It's Jet Modkins, who they interviewed from the Detroit Lions. They interviewed Chris Banjo, but I think he's going elsewhere. And I think there was one other special teams candidate that they interviewed. I can't remember who it was, but they've got options there. And hopefully it's already done. Hopefully they already know who it is and they're just waiting to announce it. But, I think we are seeing the change we wanted to see, right? We wanted to see Sorensen, not defensive coordinator, and off the team. He's not the defensive coordinator. He is off the team. We wanted to see Brandon Staley gone. Brandon Staley is going to be gone. So, for a lot of people that were calling for change, and I was one of them in the offseason, we are getting some of that.
Yeah, We got the special teams coaching change too. Like we're getting what we need now. We're asking for Brock Purdy to get paid immediately. Don't drag this out. Get it done before free agency so you know what you're working with. Because if you don't have the Brock Purdy contract done, it's going to be really, really, really hard to sign anyone in free agency because you're not going to know, what years Purdy's, going to have the most cap hit. You're not going to know exactly what you're giving him. It's going to get very, very difficult if you don't have this done. They need to have this done before free agency for many reasons too. Then he can, start working with his players and just get it done.
100%. I said the exact same thing on the instant reaction show that I did last night when the Saleh news broke. That's up on YouTube. You can go and check that out. Not now.
This is our time.
That's right. But it helps them cross another thing off the to-do list. They got this done pretty much. Now, it's not officially done. I want to make sure I say that because of all the craziness we've seen with things that we thought were done that weren't done. He's not official yet, but it looks like that's the case. If that is the case, now you've freed yourself up. You've got from now or whenever this officially gets done, which hopefully it's early next week, until the start of the new league year to get the Brock Purdy thing done. Like that is it. That's job 1, job 2, and job 3 because they've already decided they're going to pay him. I think they've made that decision already. So then that's it. And if they can get that done, Michelle, then it sets you up for a beautiful offseason. It sets you up for Brock Purdy's got his deal. He's healthy. We assume the elbow is back. They keep saying it's not a major injury. As far as we know, he's not set for any surgery or anything like that. So it sets him up to have an offseason where he's not rehabbing, where he can work with Brandon Ayuk, where he can work with Kittle and Pearsall and all those guys. The 49ers have no contract drama. Everybody shows up to training camp. Everybody shows up to mini camp. They get all their reps in, and it's just a nice, calm preseason. And the main thing, football can get back to being the main thing.
Wouldn't that be insane? Not to have a quarterback conversation during the offseason. That would just be so awesome. Having no questions about that, not having guys. And really, I can't think of anyone that would be holding out then where you're like, oh, will they struggle to start the season, right? Like all their top guys would be good to go. Hopefully would Ayuk be back? Do you think Ayuk will be there for all of training camp and be good to go?
Right. That's a good question. I don't know where he is in his rehab. Remember, we did get word last year that he was like jumping around in the locker room, doing like a 3-point shooting competition in the locker room. So hopefully that's good. I mean, obviously it's not bad, right? He's healthy enough to do that, but I don't know exactly where he falls, if he'll be ready to go like in training camp or if he'll need time. He had a lot of damage to his knee. It wasn't just a straight up ACL. I think it was like an ACL, MCL, PCL. It was a scary thing. So, yeah, that's a question. But it won't be because he's worried about his contract. It'll just be a health issue.
Sure, which might be worse. But it'll be nice not to every day in training camp being like, is this guy going to get paid? Is this guy going to get paid? Like, when is he going to be back? And we're saying this now and watch Purdy, it's Purdy that's still not paid, but that would be ridiculous. And that would be at this point, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan cannot figure out contracts and something has to change, right? If they cannot get Brock Purdy done before I'll even say free agency, then there's something wrong there with them and how they handle contract situations.
I am completely in agreement. You are right, Michelle. Last thing I want to say about Saleh before we get to our best bets, and this was another point that I made last night. A lot of us talk about how Kyle is, he'll never change. There's all yes men around him and all that stuff. We know for a fact that he and Robert Saleh butted heads a lot. They would have shouting matches during game plan meetings. That's good. That is a good thing. It's called creative tension within an organization. You need that because you don't shout at somebody like that unless you feel comfortable enough with your position, number one, and with your relationship with that person to know that they're going to hear you, right? So you're not scared about like, well, can I challenge him? If you're shouting at someone, you're not afraid of them. And that's good. And the thing with Robert Saleh is he has the years banked already with Kyle Shanahan to where there's credibility there. There's equity between them, where if Robert Saleh says, hey, maybe we're thinking about this wrong, Shanahan respects him enough to stop and listen and say, hey, maybe he's right. And there was a lot of that they lost in recent years. Matt LaFleur, they lost. They lost Mike McDaniel. Robert Saleh, when he left originally, He lost a lot of those like core brain trust guys. So to get one back in the building, I think is a very underrated part of the Robert Saleh return.
And it makes sense with Shanahan, how stubborn he is and how, I'm sorry, egotistical. And maybe you have to be that way to be a good head coach in the NFL. It wouldn't surprise me you need those characteristics, but you also need not yes man. Like yes man around you is only going to make this way worse. So yeah, Saleh not being a yes man and able to fight back against Shanahan when he is being stubborn, that will be huge. And Staley was never fighting back with Shanahan. Can you picture him like he was just a complete yes man with Shanahan next to his side, the little, I don't know. There's something I just hate about Staley. But at least Saleh, I agree with you. Like, you don't need yes men around Shanahan. He's already confident enough. You don't need to boost up his confidence. You need guys that are going to say, hey, you're being stubborn. Stop it. You need to change your thinking here. And I do think Saleh will help in that area.
And not even that Saleh will get him to change his mind every time, but just maybe get him to reconsider and re-examine things. I think it can only help. And I think that Saleh, too, he's not the same person that he was when he left, right? He's had an experience as being the head coach, as being the main guy. I had the same experience when in my career. I was like the number 2 guy on Mike and Mike for years at ESPN Radio. I wasn't a producer. I was like the assistant producer, essentially. And then when the producer was out, I would step in and do the job. And it got to a point where I was like, hey, I'm ready to be an actual producer of a national sports talk show. Like, I've done this. I've been the number 2 for years. Like, it's time. There's nothing else I can learn in this job. I need to grow. I got an offer from NBC Sports Radio. I left ESPN. Once I had been the main producer of a national sports talk show for years, I learned a lot about what I didn't know about the job. I wasn't the same person professionally that I was when I left ESPN Radio. I wasn't. Doing the job changes you. You learn things about the job you never knew. Robert Saleh has that now. So he's not going to be the exact same guy he was that he left. And again, I also think that's good because I think it helps Shanahan respect him more, because Kyle before could have been like, you don't know what you're talking about. You've never been a head coach. Well, now Robert Saleh has.
Yeah, that is all true. And also, I just think overall, this is a really good hire. I do. I wanted Saleh back. I think overall it's a great hire. You can point back to his years with the 49ers and say it wasn't as great as you wanted it to be. Their red zone defense with Saleh was really, really bad. But also, he's learned a lot, and he was great with the Jets. Hopefully he can bring some guys over. It's going to be a lot about the personnel, right? If they can bring in the men that they need, that's going to be the difference between if Saleh will succeed or fail, honestly, because Saleh will get the most out of his guys.
It's not the cure-all. It has to be both. It has to be both, regardless of who they hired. If they hired Pete Carroll or, God, Tim Kawakami was talking about Steve Belichick the other day. Holy hell. No, thank you for that one. So we will sit back and we will wait again. Hopefully by early next week, this will all be official, ink to paper, pen to paper, and we can focus now on Brock Purdy, which will be the focus relentlessly until that actually happens. We've covered the 49ers part of this, Michelle, but it is Friday. It's a conference championship Friday. We always give you best bets on this show, whether the 49ers are playing or not. And before we get to this week, we need to cheers ourselves, okay? We need to pat ourselves on the back. We gave you 14 best bets last week, and we hit on 9 of the 14 best bets. We are on an absolute heater right now. We are blowing up the betting scene. I am so pumped. I have a bunch for this week, but I'm just kudos to us. We're awesome.
We are so awesome. I'm really sorry if the Keon Coleman over receiving yards was a big bust. I feel bad about that one. I will be better this week. I promise.
Yes, the Keon Coleman did not hit, but we gave you Kelsey over 55.5. You said tease it up to 65.5. You were 1,000% right. He killed it. Dalton Schultz over his receiving yards. Houston plus 9.5. Patrick Mahomes under 0.5 interceptions. Williams from the Lions. Jamison Williams anytime touchdown. Jaden Daniels 2+ passing touchdowns. I gave you Rams plus 6.5. Dallas Goedert, you had over his receiving yards. I had Saquon Barkley 2 touchdowns in the game. We crushed it last week. So when we give you the best bets this week, just say thank you and then go make a bunch of money.
Yes, I agree. Now, what game are we gonna start with here?
Let's start with the NFC Championship. We'll start with Eagles Commanders. Right now, the spread in that game, let me just check it really quick, is still Commanders plus 5.5. What do you think of that spread, first of all?
I'm taking the plus 5.5. I won't be surprised if the Eagles win, obviously, but I think it's going to be a close game. And I also won't be surprised if the Commanders win. I think Jaden Daniels is playing out his mind right now. Jalen Hurts has this knee injury. We don't know if they could do the tush push, which is such a big part of their game plan. Their passing offense has really been struggling. So I kind of like the Commanders to maybe pull up the upset. But if I'm getting those points, what is it, 5.5? I'm taking Washington plus 5.5.
I agree with everything you said. And this is just like, I don't know what to do with this, Michelle, but I have this thought in my head. Rookie quarterbacks do not get to the Super Bowl. They don't do it. I think
rookie quarterbacks don't win on the road like Jaden Daniels does. Like Jaden Daniels has done a lot of things rookie quarterbacks don't do.
You're right. But he's also going up against Vic Fangio and a really good. This isn't the Lions.
The defense that he just put up 5 touchdowns against the last time that he played.
Yes, he did. Career high. I have more faith in Vic Fangio to cook up something new, a guy who's been a defensive coordinator forever, than I do in Jaden Daniels to be able to repeat that performance. So, and I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that is the thing that's preventing me from going all in on Commanders plus 5.5 is that Vic Fangio is a really good DC. The Eagles have really good players. And I don't know if Jaden Daniels can do it against this team again.
I just think this stat is incredible. So I'm just going to say it. There have been just 4 rookie quarterbacks to win multiple playoff games as a rookie. I already said rookie. Since 1950. I'm sure it's all time, but we can only get it back to 1950. The other 3, not great names. Brock Purdy, love him. Mark Sanchez and Joe Flacco, right? But Brock Purdy did it with the number 1 scoring defense. Mark Sanchez did it with the number 1 scoring defense, which scoring defense just means points per game allowed. Joe Flacco did it with the number 3 scoring defense. Mm-hmm. Jaden Daniels has done it with the number 18 scoring defense. Like Jaden Daniels is just killing it. He's had over 300 yards and 0 turnovers in both of his playoff games, 2 passing touchdowns in both of those games. He is just on fire, and I'm not betting against him.
And I can't really I completely understand that argument. I'm just wondering if when does the the gravy train stop? It's whether he wins or loses this game. It's an incredible playoff run what he did to go into Detroit against the number 1 team and kick their ass. I don't care if the Lions had injuries. That was incredible what he did. So whatever happens in this game, it's a fantastic playoff run for Jaden Daniels, and we'll see if he can get it done. How many best bets do you have from this game?
Listen, I'm just going to go off the cuff here. I don't have anything written down, but I have a ton of bets that I like. So, okay. I have one right off the bat in this game that you have to do. And I said it last week. It's Jaden Daniels to throw 2 touchdowns. He's still getting plus odds, plus 104 to throw, at least have 1.5 passing touchdowns. So he needs 2. He's now had at least 2 passing touchdowns in each of his last 7 full games played. He had a career high 5 passing touchdowns in his last game against the Eagles. Stafford just last week against the Eagles threw 2 passing touchdowns in a heavy snow game. And I know Eagles defense is they say it's so good now, right? Which it has been good. Go look at the quarterbacks they played because they've been so good since their week 6 bye. It's been terrible quarterbacks, but even since week 12, I mean, the quarterbacks that haven't hit these passing touchdowns, Bryce Young, Russell Wilson, Cooper Rush, Drew Lock, Jordan Love, and the good quarterbacks they have played, and Matthew Stafford twice, he hit two passing touchdowns in both of those games, and Lamar Jackson, who had 2 passing touchdowns in that game too, and then Jaden Daniels 5. So I think the Eagles' defensive numbers look massively skewed because of how bad the quarterbacks were that they've been playing.
And this is what Michelle does off the cuff, everybody. This is when she hasn't written these things down ahead of time. You convinced me. Jaden Daniels, 2 touchdowns. I'm on board with that. I'm going to go somewhere else. And by the way, I should mention, if you are going to make these bets, please do it with BetUS. Thank you to BetUS for sponsoring this show, as they always do on our Friday show. I want to remind everybody, you might not know, BetUS also has a casino. So if you like slots or live casino dealers, you can take advantage of BetUS' amazing 200% sign-up bonus up to $5,000 or 250% for crypto sign-up bonus up to $5,000. Thank you again to BetUS. I'm going to go to the Eagles side of it, and I'm going to take Saquon again, 2 touchdowns. I
Okay.
took last week. The number was so juicy last week, and it's right there again. It's plus 200. Plus 200. That means you bet $100, you win $200. He's unbelievable. Their offensive line is unbelievable. You don't even need to be at like the 5-yard line. He'll score from 70 yards away. He should have even had one more of those like breakaway 70-yard touchdowns, but he actually went down because of the game situation. He gave himself up. He's insane right now. He's their best option on offense. He's their safest option on offense. I don't think they want to put the game in the hands of Jalen Hurts. I think they want to put the game in the hands of Saquon Barkley. And if the Eagles get a lead, forget it. They'll give him the ball a billion times. So give me Saquon, 2 touchdowns in the game.
Yeah, I mean, he had 2 rushing touchdowns in both games against the Commanders this year. He had 2 touchdowns last week against the Rams. And now Jalen Hurts is dealing with a knee injury. Last week, after his knee injury, they would not do the tush push. So they gave Saquon Barkley, I think it was like 3 chances in a row. Saquon Barkley did get in the last one. But if you're telling me now that if they get to the 1-yard line, it's no longer just a tush push and that Saquon Barkley is going to get a chance, then like, yeah, he was doing this already when he was getting so many stolen away from Jalen Hurts close near the goal line. But if they're going to be scared to do that, Saquon's hitting 2 touchdowns.
And it doesn't even have to be rushing. Could be
I want to get on this one with you. Like you and me both right here. Yeah.
There we go. There's room on the bandwagon. Doesn't have to be rushing either. Could be rushing and receiving. Yep. So, yes, sign me up for Saquon Barkley and his 2 touchdowns. Did you have anything else you wanted to mention?
I kind of like Diami Brown. He has finally, I mean, the first 2 years of his career, regular season, he did absolutely nothing. But all of a sudden, he's broken out the last 2 weeks, 89 yards, 98 yards. And he was on the field for 83% of the Commanders' plays last week. So clearly they're starting to trust him. Jaden Daniels has needed a second wide receiver outside of Terry McLaurin. And, you know, like I said, I don't think the Eagles defense is as good as they look on paper. And they have Diami Brown at 44.5 receiving yards. I think that's too low. I'm going to take the over on that. Again, he said 98 and 89 these last 2 weeks in the playoffs.
Ooh, okay. I could jump on board with that. I did not see that coming. I was very scared of everybody outside of Terry McLaurin offensively for Washington. Like I think that Jaden just spreads it around. Like he doesn't really care who he throws to, and they don't really have. There's no diva situation with Washington and somebody like demanding targets and all of that. So I was scared of all of that. What do you think about Dallas Goedert anytime touchdown plus 300? And if you want to go Goedert and Eagles win combined, you get plus 358. Again, when we're talking about Jalen Hurts, and if he's going to not be as eager to do the tush push, they're going to have to do different things when they get close to the goal line. One of those things could be trying to find Dallas Goedert, especially if they use Saquon Barkley as a decoy.
Yeah, and the Commanders have been a little weak against tight ends this year. Sam Laporta just had a touchdown against them last week, and Goddard has scored a touchdown in 2 of the last 4 games. So I don't hate that.
And especially at plus 300?
Plus 300? Yeah, I actually really like that. Plus 300.
Yeah.
You didn't put my Diami Brown one up.
I know, because I wasn't sure how to spell his name, and I didn't want to look it up at the top.
Dyami and then Brown.
Yeah, well, we're past that now, so I don't think I'm going to be.
But I like that one. 44.5 receiving yards.
You're still on the record. I don't just not count it just because I didn't put the topic bar up. All right, let's go to the AFC Championship game. This is the matchup that we were all waiting for. If you could pick your AFC Championship before the year began, I don't know about you. I don't want to speak for you, Michelle, but I would have picked Bills Chiefs.
I would have too for the most exciting one, but at the same time, if I was going to pick who, I don't want the Chiefs in the stupid Super Bowl, so I wouldn't even want to give them the shot. But no, this will be great, and all of our happiness lies on Josh Allen.
The Bills are getting 2.5 points in the game. They are, of course, on the road playing in Arrowhead. This is another game where I'm not as confident in the bets this week as last week. I just want to say I still expect us to perform. There's no excuses. But last week I felt a lot more confident. I don't know if you feel the same.
I felt more confident because they were so stupid on the Travis Kelce line. Now they actually have him at a reasonable amount here at 71.5, but then it's minus odds. So I'm looking here to see what I can get if I increase his receiving yards. Hold on one second.
And we were both on Travis Kelce last week. We both told you the original line was 55.5, and you said tease it up higher so you can get better return on your investment. And you were 1,000% right. I don't know why it was so low. This is playoff Travis Kelce we're talking about. He shows up.
Yeah, so this is what I'm going with here. I'm not taking the 71.5. It's minus 117. I'm going with either 82 at plus 120 or 92 at plus 165, but I think I'll just stick with the 82 at plus 120. Over the last 4 postseasons, Travis Kelce averages 94 receiving yards per game. The last 3 games, he's had 116, 93, and 117 receiving yards. Like, all this guy does is show up in the playoffs. He's had at least, I mean, if you want to just go with the 71, you can do it because he's had at least 70 receiving yards in 14 straight playoff games. Do you know the second longest streak ever in NFL history? Like, obviously, Kelce holds the longest because it's 14 straight playoff games. The second longest is 7 with Antonio Brown at 7. He has double the longest streak as any other player with 70 or more yards in the playoffs. Just insane. But yeah, I'm going with the 82 plus yards at plus 120.
I love that. I had Kelce written down as well. Like, and you know, we say that with that streak, every team went into every one of those games saying we got to stop Travis Kelce. Like, this is the guy we got to shut down, and he still kills them. It's the playoffs. He gets it. They get it. I'm totally on board with the Travis Kelce, and I like the better number too at plus 120, even though the receiving yardage is higher. I mean, I had it at 71.5. That's the original number. You might as well get to 10 more yards. That's one more catch, essentially. And then you get a much, much better return on your investment. He's also plus 120 to score a touchdown in the game, which, yes, he's going to score a touchdown in the game. Do it. Do both of them. If you can get them all together and make a nice little parlay for yourself, I'm all in on playoff Travis Kelce.
It's hard not to be. I mean, all he does, I swear, he just say, and now it just seems like he's saving his body for the playoffs because they don't even care about the regular season anymore.
Right. And that's essentially what the Chiefs said. And also, I think Andy Reid said, like, hey, Hollywood Brown is back now. We're getting other pieces that steal some of the attention away from Travis Kelce. That's opening things up as well. There's no reason. Let 87 make you somewhat. Look, you're going to be frustrated because he's going to get his anyway. You might as well make some damn money on it.
Absolutely. And I swear to goodness, if the Chiefs make it back to the Super Bowl,
you're not going to be pleased. All right. The only other one I had from this game, and I don't even know how I feel about it, Buffalo to score 3 touchdowns in the game. It's minus 120, which is such a bad number. But I feel like they're going to get 3 touchdowns, don't you?
If they don't, they're going to lose.
Right. Yeah, they'll have to score more than that. The only other one I saw, and this is another bad number, but Josh Allen, anytime touchdown, minus 125. He's going to get one, I believe, but at minus 125, like, you got to risk a lot to make it worth your investment.
Yeah, I have one more, Khalil Shakir, and I want this one written down. Khalil Shakir over 57.5 receiving yards. Last week he had 67 and Josh Allen threw 127 passing yards. That's all Josh Allen had last week, 127, and Shakir still had 67 yards. The week prior, they played the really tough Broncos defense. He had 61 receiving yards. Earlier in the season, when they played the Chiefs, Shakir led the Bills with 70 receiving yards. I'm taking Shakir to have it over 57.5.
There's the topic bar for you. I still write all of them down, even though I don't necessarily put the topic bar up, Michelle. So you can still get credit for it, but that's good. Take that.
Ooh, I have another one. What is Kareem Hunt's touchdown at?
Oh, anytime touchdown for Kareem Hunt?
129. Take that. Ooh, 2 is plus 100. I kind of want to go.
No, 2 is plus 1,000.
Yeah. What did I just say?
You said plus 100.
Oh, yeah, plus 1,000. That's real juicy. But if you just want to play it safer, plus 129. He's had a goal line carry in each of the last 3 weeks, and he scored a touchdown on each of those goal line carries. I shouldn't say last 3 weeks, last 3 games he's played, because he got to sit out week 18 with the starters sitting out. But he is the only Chiefs running back to get a goal line carry since week 4. He's
Ooh.
well outsnapped and outperformed Pacheco last week in the divisional round. So I think he's going to be on the field way more than Pacheco. And if they get near the goal line, it's going to be Hunt. And the Chiefs are going to have to score in this game. So I'm going with at least 1 touchdown for Kareem Hunt. And 2 is real spicy at plus 1,000.
And they're not going to QB sneak it with Mahomes because they never do that. So I love that Kareem Hunt's plus 179 now. That is a juicy number. So there you go. That is our championship game best bets. I hope you.
Wait, who do you have winning this game? We didn't do that.
I know. I was hoping you wouldn't put me on the spot.
Well, we don't have to do this for best bets because it really isn't possible. And I'm not going to advise anyone to bet on this line. But it's Bills 2.5. So basically, you think the Bills or the Chiefs are going to win?
I will be rooting hard for the Bills, but I can't pick against Patrick Mahomes until I actually see him lose. Like, how many times do I have to watch this movie before I finally learn? The dude wins relentlessly. And so I will be pulling for Josh Allen hard. But when you're asking me who I'm picking the machine. Mahomes, Reed, Taylor Swift conquers all.
It's going to end in one of two ways, where Josh Allen has an amazing end of the drive. He had like 30 seconds to bring him down, get him in the field goal range, win this game. And Tyler Bass misses a 40-yard field goal, right? It's going to end like that because every kicker against Patrick Mahomes misses field goals. It's not even a lie. There's actually been 12 missed field goals / extra points against the Chiefs this year in the regular season, most in the NFL. And then they had another one in this last game of an extra point. It's insane. But then also, or the other way that it would end is that the Bills are trying to get Mahomes off the field for one last drive for Josh Allen. They stop him on 3rd and 15. They stop him on 3rd and 15, and that flag's coming out. So that's the thing with the Bills. They're not just playing against the Chiefs. They're also playing against the refs. And it's just the truth. You can go look at the numbers since 2021 in the postseason. The amount of ref bias towards the Chiefs is insane. So it's really hard to pick this game because the Bills are the better team. But when you have to play against the refs too, it's really hard to win.
Moonman Ed, YouTube channel member, says, with Saleh coming back, do y'all think that we're going defense with the 11th pick? I hope not, because I want Banks or Campbell to improve our offensive line. I just want offensive line or defensive line, Michelle. I don't care where they go in the first round. Just pick it at one of those spots and I'll be happy.
Yeah, who's the better guy on the board? Is it an edge or an offensive lineman? And I think that's going to be your choice there. I think those are really the only 2 choices you can go. It has to be the front, on either side. And honestly, I'm not going to be mad if they go defense, a front defensive guy. I mean, right now, their defensive roster is looking real thin.
100% in agreement with you there. Thank you for your best bets, Michelle, and for joining us as always. Thank you to BetUS. And by the way, just a reminder, did you know that they also have a casino? If you like slots or live casino dealers, take advantage of BetUS. Amazing 200% sign-up bonus up to $5,000 or 250% for crypto sign-up bonus up to $5,000. Any big plans on this Friday?
I'm going to go get some espressos tonight from Preamble, where I brought you.
Oh, Michelle brought me to her espresso martini place. Let me just tell you, it was fabulous. Now every time she tells me that she goes, I just get jealous because I know how good the drinks are.
And your wife, this was your first espresso martini ever, but your wife, who's had them before, she agreed with me, best espresso martini she's ever had.
We're just clearly in different places. You have an espresso martini date every Friday night. I have like had a half an episode of something on Netflix with my wife and then fall asleep on the couch date every Friday night.
Hey, and I have started watching Traitors, so I'm sure that will be a part of my day today. Traitors is a great show.
All right. I'll have to check it out. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Hopefully you make some money on the best bets. Enjoy the conference championship games, and God help us. Let's hope we're all watching Josh Allen and Jaden Daniels in the Super Bowl.
Bye, y'all.